You are listening to the Tenets on the Kyle Dempster Studios Network. To support us, visit patreon.com/Kyle Dempster Studios. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to a new episode of the Tenets. My name is Kyle, and I'm joined here by my co-host, as always, Stark Realm. Stark, how you doing today?
Pretty good.
Good to hear. So this episode's coming to you guys. We're recording this the day that Zynode's episode came out. He came on to the last episode. It was episode 29, and he did a great recap of how new players can get their DPS up once they've already hit level cap, either be that level 50 or be that CP 160, whatever your cap is. We kind of talked about how you can learn mechanics, and that is a fantastic episode. So if you guys have not listened to it, please do, especially if you're trying to get into some veteran content or determine if you're ready for that. Anything in that way, looking to improve, that's going to be a good one for you. Now, the reason I bring that up is because we were going to air this episode in line with the previous. We talked in episode 28 all about Necromancer hype, Elsweyr NDA lifting, like such excitement, and that was very, very fun, Stark, to just BS with you about like what's coming and just the justice interactions, that whole system. It's led to some really good conversations over on Twitch too. So I thought we could get in here, we could recap the things we haven't talked about, which will be dragons, the Sunspire trial, and just some general game changes that we know are coming down the line. And again, this comes from off the heels of Bethesda days at game days at PAX East. So we've got some more information from them, and now we can actually talk about it together here. So what do you say we talk about dragons first?
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah, so these are going to be our dolmens, effectively, or our incursions for Elsweyr. And I fought one. They're very fun. They are so much more fun than any dolmen that I've gone up against, and they're going to require a little bit larger of a group, so that's cool. Do you have anything that you're like excited for face value with these?
This is actually a really minor thing, but and I haven't actually seen this in practice either yet. So I'm still working off of this is there in the announcements, and then it's like, well, what does this actually work out to? So as anybody who played a lot of Skyrim, you start to realize after someplace in the 100-hour mark that there's not really that many dragon types. Yeah, there's some unique dragons, Parthenax. Parthenax is an example, Alduin's another. But these guys, aside from a handful of them that actually have unique visuals, most of the dragons are simply a copy-paste of one of the normal level dragons, and there's only about 7 or 8 of those. So one of the things that's kicking in with Elsweyr is the dragons, and I'm not sure if they're just like they're pre-baked or if they're procedurally built when you're encountering them, but they're supposed to be a much larger variety visually. Which, of course, when you're just paying attention to the health bar and trying to deal with the mechanics doesn't matter. But at the same time, when you're looking at them, that's actually a huge thing. And it sounds like a really minor detail, but it's like I'm actually kind of psyched about that.
Well, yeah, I think you should be, especially as people that are playing the game as much as we are. We know what the hype's going to be like when Elsweyr hits for the entire first year of it, right? Like it will be the hot thing, the hot ticket item. So downing these dragons, I have no doubt, is going to be a major part of our lives. And so encountering different ones is going to keep that experience fresh. We've talked about this a million times. Just last night, we ran with our guild the world bosses in Somerset, and they are great world bosses, but they are always the exact same, no variation world bosses. And that's fine. But, when you're encountering these things, man, if they were slightly different in the style of the dragons, that would keep that so much more fresh. And I think, like you're saying, that the encounter itself is not going to change so much in terms of what mechanics they throw out and things of that nature, but even to just spice up the visuals is going to be that's pretty major.
Yeah, to be fair, when we're talking about because we are talking about incursions, like the dragons are replacing the incursions for Elsweyr. So the immediate analogy is going to be the dark anchors, the dolmens, and then also the geysers. So in those cases, yeah, you do have a range of different bosses that can spawn in the final phase. And there are, in both cases, a set of unique bosses that can specifically spawn. But because world bosses are going to be world bosses.
Right.
Especially with Somerset, a lot of them are actually named. I think all of them are named.
They're all named, yes.
Specifically, like they have unique names. They're specific NPCs, and you really wouldn't expect them to change from random spawn to random spawn. On the other hand, when we're looking at the incursions, because these are sort of this random, oh, hey, here's something to do right now mechanic. Yeah, having more variety there is actually really appealing. I
think it's very important that you brought up that distinction, but I think this is going to blur that line because these do feel more like world bosses than incursions, which in my opinion is a great thing because I'm not a fan of dolmens or geysers. I find them tedious, really. Like, it's just like, okay, you know, cut through 3 waves of whatever and then kill a lame boss dude that pops out. Like, to me, that's not fun. I mean, for the people that love it, bless. This is going to feel more like a world boss, and a tough world boss at that. So that's why you're right to draw that line. I think it's going to blur that line, though. I think that terminology is going to, in the player-based sphere, is really going to change a lot. Now, whether that's, you know, we're just talking like colloquial, like language there, right? But I think that you're probably going to see a shift there because these are effectively just a world boss. A very cool, very powerful, very, like I said, much more powerful than the other world bosses. But the fact that, so let's talk about how they're going to kind of path around here, right? They're single target bosses or single again,
single enemy encounters.
Yeah, thank you. That's the word I'm looking for. Again, just like a world boss, it's going to be single enemy. And they are going to move, so it kind of akin to like dolmens or geysers. It's going to be you traveling to different areas on the map, and you're going to encounter them at different areas that they are set to land. Cool idea having that marker on your map, though. So you're going to see a little dragon floating around. When I got to play it, it wasn't set up completely. Like, it was still in the development phase, obviously, that being the least of the important things to nail down. But
well, I think Rich's specific comment on stream, like at PAX, was make sure it works, then make it pretty, which it's, yeah, you need to do that.
Absolutely. You need to make sure the dragon can land and fight you correctly before you worry about if the little marker on your map is beautiful. So I understand why they're doing it that way. And I wish I had got to see it flying around, though. Like, I'm very excited to see what that looks like when they have it locked in, because I know it's going to be great. So like I said, I feel like these guys straddle that boundary. You're right. They are incursions, but man, they're going to feel more like world bosses, which I think is something I'm going to enjoy a lot more because, again, I'm not into the waves of mobs that spawn with, like, geysers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They had some very interesting mechanics, too. So go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, because that is kind of one of these sort of play differentiations of play approach, which is which do you prefer for difficulty? Do you like enemies that are individually a lot beefier?
Yep.
Or do you like wave-based combat, where you can just go through enemies like popcorn? And something about ESO in general is there's actually sets that differentiate between these. Stuff like VO is going to do a lot, and there's actually a new version of that coming in Elsweyr that we've seen as one of the sets, like a Magicka version of Vicious Ophidian. Stuff like that works better when you're running through popcorn mobs in between pounding on a major enemy. So it's kind of interesting with this, where it's like, okay, well, now you've got one enemy, like a single target, and builds that specialize in clearing, like, well, not specialized, but do better when clearing random trash are actually gonna have a harder time here. And this includes stuff like werewolves, come to think of it.
Oh, so, interesting.
Yeah, it is going to be interesting.
That, yeah, I mean, I definitely get it, and I'm not trying to steal anyone's thunder by saying, you know, I want more beefy bosses. But in fairness, we haven't had this before that I know of, at least in my ESO experience. Meaning, like, you know, we've got all the other incursion types as waves that at least that I can think of, unless you know something.
Yeah, no, there isn't. There wasn't an incursion type included with Morrowind, and that was kind of a point of complaint in the community at the time, because that entire mechanic just wasn't there of these, okay, you're wandering around and then this large thing happens and people are actually drawn to it. Because with anchors and with the geysers, there's actually an indication that you can see from some distance away that this event is happening, and that does tend to draw players in a way that you don't really see with world bosses for the most part. So
yeah,
I assume there's something like that with the dragons, but I haven't seen it, so I'm just guessing here.
Well, I mean, that's a very good point. And I wonder if you could see the dragons swoop down, because they didn't have that mechanic nailed yet. Again, they were more focused on the fighting of the dragons. So I don't know. I like that it's a change of pace. If anyone out there is upset that this is a wave, it's not a wave sort of boss. I wouldn't worry about it too much. Again, it's only one zone. You still have all your other incursions out there in the world. Also, it's just one expansion that's functioning this way. Also, I cannot guarantee that the other world bosses do not have waves of things. Like, meaning we fought them, but they weren't balanced. So they seem like they've got some really great mechanics for the world bosses, the actual proper world bosses. But they were at that point where, like, we're all running around on necromancers that were not balanced yet, fighting world bosses that I think were seriously just placeholders. Like, they were not tuned to fight us in any way. So we could almost, like, beat on them like trash mobs and they would die. So we got to cheese a lot of the mechanics that I know are going to be super fun. I mean, they've got some unique stuff coming with these new world bosses. So comboing the actual standard world bosses plus these dragons, I think fighting around Elsweyr is going to be very, very interesting. Like, we're going to go up against some super, super cool targets. What else are you thinking about with Dragons, Stark? Anything that's coming?
Well, there's two things. Yeah. One thing, because they haven't put out numbers for the dragon fights, but something about the other incursions that's worth knowing, and this goes back to the popcorn that you get to deal with as you fight through them. They scale based on the number of players present. Oh. So when you're actually interacting with a dolmen alone, you're going to see far fewer enemies than if you get 3 or 4 people coming in. And I want to say with dolmens, the cap is actually about 4. I want to say with geysers, it's 8 or 12. So we don't know what's going on with the dragons in this regard. Like, it could be interesting if the dragons have different move sets or even just stat modifiers that kick in as people arrive. And of course, like I said, they have not talked about the number of players that they're aiming for dragon completions. But that's actually one thing is unique to the incursion system that isn't present anywhere else, where it deliberately checks the number of players that are participating in the event and then ramps the difficulty accordingly.
That'd be very cool, because we fought with, I want to say it was about, so there are 12 people there total. I want to say we fought these guys about 8 to 12 people, because I know we had some stragglers that weren't there, and some people, came and went when we were fighting them. But it felt really, really good, and not to undersell this for anyone out there that might not like this fight, but if you know the Griffin fight in Somerset, it had a similar vibe to that, in the sense that, like, these are aerial beasts, right? They're hovering above the ground, means they have a lot of directional things, and they can spawn some stuff. Like, the mechanics felt really, really good. It was like, get out of the way, because if you are, gonna, like, it was a dodging sort of fight, which I think is what a dragon fight would feel like, right? Like, you've got this beast that's able to come at you from many different angles. It's not just a traditional enemy that's fighting you on the ground. So wings, stuff like that involved. I remember he had some sort of AoE on his sides. Like, he had a like some sort of wing AoE thing that you'd have like cones come out of both sides of him. And I remember that was nasty to get hit with. Like, it was a very dynamic feeling fight. I heard you chuckle with the Griffin thing. Is that a bad chuckle?
Yeah, I have history with them. No, I have history with them. They're bastards.
I like that fight. It may honestly be my favorite fight in Somerset World Bosses mechanically, because it's diverse.
That was the first world boss in Somerset that smeared me across the walls.
Was it?
Yes.
I think that's a good thing. Well, okay.
It is, yeah.
For anyone...
similar story to what you're talking about, though, because it's like I was going in there before they'd been fully balanced past. So it's just like they were brutal.
Well, I was going to say...
It's like they're like, okay, yep, you're not here anymore. Splat!
I have an affinity for those Griffins, because in my mind, they are the first world boss I really remember completing in Somerset. And they are the world boss that I've been able to measure my progress as a player very easily with, very, like, succinctly. What I mean by that is I remember dying quite a bit when I was new, like newly 160 and fighting these guys with a group. Now I almost never, I don't think I've died in like the last probably 10 encounters with them. And that goes from me, that's a testament to me learning mechanics, right? Like I know what to anticipate. I know that when they go into this mode to do that. And I think that's a good thing. So again, I have an affinity for that fight because I've seen myself grow, and I see the same thing happening with these dragons, that it's like, they really smeared us, like you said. And they did not feel overpowered. They feel appropriately like this is a dragon. And they've said that too, right? They have said very publicly since Elsweyr was teased that the dragon, we are not the Dovahkiin, and the dragons are gonna be tough. And they felt like a dragon encounter that I would want. Bless Skyrim, no shade to Skyrim, but you know, as the Dovahkiin, the dragons feel kind of tough, but also so do the frost trolls. So they didn't feel tougher than frost trolls to me in Skyrim. Here, they're definitely tougher than any troll you've encountered.
Well, we know the true kings of Skyrim are the snowy saber cats.
Truth. They mauled me last time I played.
Yeah, those things are vicious. Yeah, so...
Go for it.
Yeah, the thing with the dragons in Skyrim, and this is... I'll tear into it a little bit. It falls victim to the way the game engages in level scaling. Like Skyrim. This is not related to ESO because the games have completely different systems. Skyrim, as you level up, it unlocks more challenging enemies that pop up on your level list, and then it will spawn stuff. It'll preferentially spawn stuff higher on the list, but it will go down and pull stuff from lower on the list. And because it's basically a linear power progression, as you progress through the game, as you level up, and as you increase the quality of your gear and the treasures you have and all of this stuff, that progression breaks hard. So that by the time you get to a certain point in the game, and it's been long enough since I played it that I can't pinpoint the exact moment it happens. Someplace around the time you start hitting 100 on skill lines, which could be as early as level 20, depending on how focused you are, you really end up significantly more powerful than the things you're facing. Because the other thing with Skyrim is you have a finite power cap on how much damage, outgoing damage you can do. And for the most part, the enemies respect that. So at level 20, if you've maxed out, you know, your marksman skill or bow skill, I forget which it's called in that, you're going to be putting out as much damage with that as you ever will if you can get access to an upgraded bow in the top tiers. And that completely turns the power curve inside out.
It really does, doesn't it?
Yeah, so at that point, even though statistically the dragons should be pretty challenging in Skyrim, they're not.
And that's where, again, no shade to Skyrim players, because good Lord, I love that game. But
I love that game too, but it's not a perfect game. No,
because they do start to feel just like cannon fodder. Like I said, they become, I mean, they really do become just a minor nuisance. Actually, they become in Skyrim a major nuisance in the sense that, like, oh no, you're going to kill a villager I need to talk to or something like that. Like you're going to make these towns barren for me. Like, no, darn you. Let me put in a mod that makes them hide. And, you know. Yeah, there's this weird incentive with Skyrim where it's like, okay, well, either don't even start the main quest after you get to Riverwood, just so the dragons don't spawn, because they don't start spawning until, I want to say, after you go meet the Greybeards. I'd have to double check that threshold, but it's something like that. Or no, it's Kynesgrove. It's when you go to Kynesgrove. That's when they start spawning. Or just absolutely make sure you finish it, just so that most of them are non-hostile, because between these 2 points, it's kind of like, wait, what? Oh, yeah. See, I've never played... Well, because I think they... I don't know where Kynesgrove is. I forget, but... that's the one where you go up there with Delphine and you see Alduin raised dragon. I think it's pretty early in the main quest. I don't think I've ever done that because I don't do the main quest. I know you can all talk bad about me now. Commence. But I think they actually start whenever you first just go to talk to the Thane and fight that first dragon in Whiterun. No, he's... it's like... Because that's like the Kvatch gates. Yeah, it's like the Kvatch gates, if I remember correctly, or the Oblivion gates with Kvatch, because you can... Oh, no, wait. Yeah, Kvatch works that way. Well, I was going to say, I only go as far as to go to talk to the Thane and get Lydia, and then he sends me kill that dragon. Sorry, we're talking Skyrim a lot, pardon us. But we kill that one dragon, and then I quit. And then I've got dragons everywhere, and I'm like, no! Dragons everywhere, yeah. But I've never completed it. That's weird. Ties into ESO, tying back into, I'm not really a main quester. I mean, this is pretty obvious. But that is why I like these encounters and stuff like that. Is I am a multiplayer dude. That's really tough turn here. I'm bringing us right back around full speed. But I mean, these incursions are fun because of that. Like, I bless everyone that loves the quest, because I have all the respect in the world. I want to, and I'm probably going to now that we're gonna get necromancers. But man, I love this content because there's nothing that gets people. It's a players of all ages sort of thing. Like, no matter what your level, as long as you've got Elsweyr, you can come kill dragons with us. Like, that's a very cool thing. And talking back to Zai's episode, this stuff teaches mechanics.
It does.
I'll warn people, you're gonna die. Pardon me. On your first run through this, you are definitely gonna die. And that's okay. Like, you're gonna learn over time if you keep running. You're going to see what sort of mechanics to dodge. But these mechanics pop up elsewhere in the... elsewhere. They pop up elsewhere in the game, though. You know, like, meaning... you're going to see many enemies throw ground lays. So you might as well learn it from a world boss, which is very forgiving. You can just res. The group doesn't suffer because you died to it. But like these world bosses, these incursions, these are great ways to practice mechanics that you're going to encounter in dungeons too. Not you know, the exact same mechanic. Sometimes borrowed mechanics for sure. But yeah, I think these are great for educational purposes as much as fun.
Yeah.
So what else do we have to talk about with dragons? Because at this point, we're just kind of... This is just our hype episode. Just get you guys excited.
It occurs to me, though, when we're talking about the dragons for a second.
Yeah.
We were talking a minute ago about incursions popping up on the map, and then I'm realizing, oh, wait. Like, because you actually look out, and you see the geyser firing up. And it's like, oh, right. The dragons actually have unique map icons that track with them. So if you want to find them, you're just going to look on your map and see where they're moving around.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is actually going to be there. There's going to be a mechanic for players to find these things when they're down.
And we kind of talked about this off air, pardon me, for just a second, and said that I wouldn't mind having these for the geysers and dolmens that we already have. Actually, like it wouldn't hurt me if just there was a special shaded a special shaded outline around the icon on the map. Like, give it a little purple or blue or whatever sort of glow around it to show that that's lit up. I don't know if that's intensively tough on people's, you know, connection and therefore frame rate and all that other stuff.
Probably not.
And if it's not, it'd be really cool just because, I don't know, sometimes you're running around a zone, you're like, I wouldn't mind doing it if I knew which one was open. And, you know, I don't know. Sometimes those don't, it depends.
The only thing I can think about with that might be a problem. Okay, so when you have a zone, and I'm going to use Somerset as an example, you don't see all the players that are in that zone. This is something that actually gets lobbed at the game when people are being pissy and they're like, no, the game's dying because the zone is not just clogged with people who think it's unplayable. Yeah. But what happens is the game actually generates multiple shards of that map. And you can get situations where it's like, if you're porting around, like you go to a way shrine, you port, you'll end up in a different shard. Yep. And a lot of times when you actually see this stuff happen is when you're trying to group with somebody. And normally the grouping tool, it's supposed to push you into the same instance as them, but it doesn't always. So
that is true.
The dolmens, the active dolmens, and the active geysers are related to which shard you're in. So it's possible the reason we don't have that is because if you've got an effect to indicate, oh yeah, that one over there is active, and you try to way shrine over, and then it might not be, depending on which shard you're in. That's the only thing I can think of where it's like this could be a problem. Which isn't the same thing as saying don't do it. Just that could be the issue and why we don't have that right now.
And I admit, going backwards and fitting that into the game is not the most important thing to me by any stretch of the imagination. So I wouldn't really ask that manpower be diverted to that if it were my call. Just because, I mean, we've already lived with this for, you know, some players have lived with this for 5 years now. And it seems to be working fine for them. But for new content, it wouldn't be a bad idea that these events are kind of lit up and there's attraction drawn to them, because I actually think that might be the reason I don't do geysers. Geysers more than dolmens, and it could just be that I spend a lot of my time in Somerset, right? But I always see people sharing in zone chat which geyser is open. Like, that is a thing. And maybe that's because there's a daily quest tied to it. And I don't think
there isn't.
What?
There is not.
There's a daily quest there. You have to go take out a geyser. You have you have to do a daily quest. You have to do a quest chain. It's like 2 quests to unlock it. But yeah, it's your third like Justicer thing. She's by the
I never even knew about that one.
Yeah, she doesn't appear until you unlock her. She's like right, if you know where the Eleanor Crest townhouse is, you come down around those stairs. Yeah. There's a little balcony, sort of rounded ledge before you go into the writ area. She'll appear on there and she'll give you a quest to go do a daily geyser. And so that's another chance at motifs and Kulan de Lacquer. So you have like 3 dailies there. Daily Delve, Daily World Boss, Daily Geyser.
Geyser, yeah.
So there
I didn't know about that at all.
A financial incentive, right, to running these guys. And I don't think Dolmens have that anywhere.
They do.
They do? So they have a daily incentive?
They do. It's the Fighters Guild. Okay, so the Fighters Guild will give you a quest where it'll be go clear 3 Dolmens in a given zone, which it will accept just 3 dolmen completes. It doesn't have to, you don't have to do all 3 dolmens, but just complete 3 dolmens in that zone and you're good.
Oh wow, I had no idea that was a thing. Look at me.
Yeah, and that pays out with, it can pay out with the Draugr motif, and it also pays out with a couple of ornate pieces. So financially and XP wise, that one's actually pretty lucrative.
Well,
there is actually a daily for that.
Huh. That wouldn't be a bad idea to kind of just do some of those for fun someday then.
Yeah.
But I was going to say, I always see people talking in chat. I don't know if they're trying to coordinate just for that daily or just to do the geysers period, but I see that happening all the time, saying which geyser is up. And that being, with that being the case, I think it would be beneficial if it kind of had some sort of marker to it other than just a little glow around it. Because when people are sitting in Alinor, they might want to port out and go fight a thing if they knew which thing was open. But I really don't want to do the whole, like, anyone know where to go? Like, that just becomes an extra, 3 minutes worth of work and per geyser and, not interested. But I think this is a really, really cool concept, and I would be happy with this going forward in future expansions or chapters where they use some sort of mechanism like this, some sort of visual indicator on the map to tell people what's happening. Also, may I add, lore-wise, I wouldn't mind... this one may be a lot harder to do, but I really like in Glenumbra, in what's her face? There's that town caller lady in Daggerfall, and she's always yelling about stay inside. I don't know, that might be way too hard to do with zoning and stuff like that. I get it. Like, this is a huge server ask. Oh yeah, major server ask. But if you could get the NPCs to call out something like that too, that would be kind of neat. Because also in Somerset, the Justicers that you take the your daily from, they'll always talk about which world boss is pestering them that day. So like if it's the Griffin quest that you got to do, she's like, Griffin feathers, bleh, and she'll like say her line. And I think that's neat. Now this thing moves a lot faster. I get it. It's not a daily reset, but I don't know if that's a thing that could ever be done. It's neat for immersion. Even just for me, I like it.
What's funny about the town crier and Glenumbra, and this might be something you
cut out there, Stark. Hello? Uh-oh. We've lost our Stark. 1 sec, everybody. Oops. Maybe I don't hit that button. Maybe I hit this button. Okay, we are back from our little internet outage issue. Stark, you want to talk to me a little bit about, you were just saying that the NPC in Glenumbra something.
She actually tracks your overall quest progression through the zone with her dialogue. So she'll give you varied shout outs as you cross specific quest thresholds. I want to say she's got one for each of the quests in Glenumbra that actually awards a skill point, but as with a lot of NPCs, this is actually true of a lot of NPCs in the game in general, they'll respond to various things you've done as you progress through the game. So you could tweak that around so it's like, oh, hey, there's a dragon over there. I want to say Skyrim actually did do that too. It would give you notifications from NPCs about, oh, hey, there's a dragon off there being a pain. But as I think you pointed out, there's the big problem with that is still this is a much shorter time frame in ESO. Yeah. So we're talking about a dragon that's going to be up for maybe 5-10 minutes as opposed to one that's going to exist there for the next, it's a 20-to-1 time compression on Skyrim. So it's going to be there for probably a couple of hours at least, if it doesn't just stay there until you deal with it.
See, yeah, I that's exactly what it is. I think the idea is fun in concept, but I'm not really sure it would work in reality because it may actually get very annoying, you know, if it's changing too rapidly. But I do think that stuff's really, really cute, and it really is good for immersion. Like that Town Crier lady is one of my absolute favorites. I love her, like warning people to stay indoors because the werewolf threat or the cult threat, whatever it is. But I think that's really a neat thing, and I'd like to see more of that. Again, I talked before our break about how the daily quest giver will say like, "Oh, the griffin feathers or keel splitter or something like that." I think that's really cool, and we probably will get that for the daily quests that are actually for killing world bosses. Again, I would imagine.
Yeah. I'm actually looking forward to that because again, I never noticed that, I never picked up on that, and some of that's. I got conditioned by the game. So for 5 years, like you'd run around. Even NPCs like Tenets have barks that are based on their race and what you've done in various zones. So he'll actually respawn. One of the things he'll actually pick up on is a quest in Stonefalls. If you've completed that quest, he'll make a comment about it occasionally. And it's just like, Tenets, why do you care? We're in Cold Harbor. What's going on? Is everything okay at home? And he's just like, he'll just make the comment about the coral heart. And it's like, okay, this is odd. But that resulted in this thing where I legitimately never noticed that the quest givers for those dailies would actually tell you which quest you get because it's random per player. Right. You're on a rotation. You'll get this one today. You'll get that one tomorrow. You get another one after that. And that's randomized to the player. So it never occurred to me to actually stop and listen to what they were griping about to see which one I would get.
Yeah, you should try it. I mean, just pop into Alinor for a minute, walk down to that little area and just hear what they have to say and then take their quest. I think it's cute. Like I said, it's a really good immersion thing for the game. I like that they've done it in all these different ways, and I think that's something they should absolutely keep up if it's, you know, easy enough for them to do. So go everyone, if you haven't heard that, check that out. Pay attention to some of the NPC dialogues. It's kind of funny because when I'm streaming, I've got my audio set up in a very interesting way. And this is a total tangent, but I have to say one of my biggest complaints in this game is more of a personal complaint. And it's just that certain NPCs are so loud and they talk over me on stream, and then other ones are so quiet when I'm trying to hear them. So there's almost like I don't know if that ever could be fixed, that like important things take precedence over stupid things. And I know that they could flag what's stupid, because what I'm saying by stupid is it's cute, but when you're in Alinor and you're in the crafting zone there, the guy's singing the Star-Eyed Bride of Alinor song. And I mean, it was great the first 279 times I listened to it. But once I hit 280 listens, I was, you know, I'm ready to strangle the dude, and, you know.
It's kind of how I feel about Red Diamond. There's actually also a little quirk with that that's really annoying.
What's that?
So when you go near the bards, any of them that are singing, the background music will fade out, which is really nice. So you don't end up with two competing pieces of music playing over each other. However, if you're playing music through Spotify or SoundCloud or iTunes, and it doesn't know to cut out, and then they'll fight with your music. And it's like, thanks, guys. There's no control over their audio. Like there's no independent control over, hey, how loud do you want the bard songs to be?
That and see, I wonder if that stuff could be. That's so a personal change that I would request. But I would, if I could make like a random thing come true with very little labor, it would be maybe to isolate out certain audio things that are in like an unnecessary slider of their, you know.
It can be done too. Actually, something weird. This was not ESO. This was, I was screwing around with, I think Watch Dogs 2 was on sale on Steam for like $8. So I was messing around with it because I passed on it at the time. It actually has a setting. Maybe it was Far Cry, the expansion for Far Cry recently. It had a setting called streamer friendly mode, where it would cut out all of the licensed music. Like when you're playing, it would not play that.
Wow.
It wouldn't drop that on you. I think Fallout 76 has that now as well. It's got a setting where you can adjust the audio of the radios in the background, which again, it's going to be licensed music. So if you're doing this for YouTube or you're doing this for Twitch, like that's a good way to get a copyright strike when you're playing a game. And it does. haven't heard of anything like that happening with the bards in ESO, because again, this is original to ESO, but at the same time, I'm also remembering back a few years ago where you had people that were copyright trolls that would go through and they'd specifically look for anything they could mark down. And being able to point to, it's like, oh yeah, no, we own the copyright to that music, even though they don't. And that was a serious problem there for a while. So it is a little surprising that stuff is not, especially the world we live in today, that stuff can't be tweaked out one way or another. Because
you're right. And I think this is the same problem with those beautiful new music boxes that are up on the Crown Store is, I mean, the joke is that Ninja 614 absolutely hates them. And a very valid reason why. I think they're pretty and I'll put them in my house, but I leave them shut off because otherwise it plays this cute song, but it definitely competes with my Spotify music that I have running for stream. You know, I'll listen to a lot of ESO friendly music, like we'll listen to Oblivion, the Skyrim soundtracks and all that sort of stuff, because again, it doesn't get flagged because it's, you know, music that's out there in that space and allowed for that reason. Yeah, that being said, you know, it competes and it's annoying. And like I said, you'll go into certain dungeons and you'll have like screaming loud. I'm thinking, I think it might be Banished Cells 1 and 2.
Realist does, yeah. Realist just freaking belts it out on a PA system.
Belts it out, PA style. But then, you know, you'll go do a quest. This always happens though. So there's a problem actually right there. That quest dialogue is different than ambient voice dialogue.
I want to say
not
specifically.
That's the problem.
Well, yeah, it's on the same. Yeah, it's on the same volume channel.
Yeah.
I want to say Realist is actually bugged right now. Like his volume is so loud that.
Yes.
And of course, another one that.
Not just
yeah, and of course the one you know, because I keep freaking posting it every time, is, you know, do you know how long I've been looking for you? It's
right.
No.
I know.
Stop. Yeah.
Actually, you know what? They should just give her a line where it's like, "Thanks, I know I'll be back." Is what they should give her a line for.
I would be happy if they would leash her near the cart. Like if she's, they not literally put her on a leash.
Should. Yeah, but
like
they
if
should.
She would stay near the cart.
Yeah. That would work fine for me. Or if we gave her a dialogue line that says, "Great, I will be back," and she says, "Great, I'm waiting for you by that cart." And like she then, you know, either of the two would be cool. Sorry, we're very tangential, but I'm sure everyone listening is like, yes, guys, please, yes. I have no doubt they're shaking their head, yes. I was going to say,
I'd live with it if she did the "do you know how long I've looking for you" once. Like she runs down and finds you, and then she hangs out next to her cart. Like that's fine, because then we just run past the cart and we get that, and we do. You want to do something worthwhile at the same time, and we don't have to listen to them again.
That's very true. Very true.
She chases us.
Well, I was going to say, my other issue is that the actual quest givers, or when you're talking dialogue with a quest, they are very quiet for me. So there is at least on my side, and I know my things are tweaked funny, but we got people complaining certain ways, and it's all over the place. So Cinemax, if that could be fixed, maybe in Elsweyr, that'd be amazing. Thank you. In the essence of time, let's talk Sunspire, the new trial coming in with Elsweyr. So I got to preview this baby, and it is really cool. So I see here, Stark, you have noted, it's the first full trial in 2 years. So you got Cloud Rest, which was just a boss trial, no trash mobs. And then before that was a full trial. Is that right?
No, Cylon was before that. So you've actually done those two now.
Trash
those
mobs.
Are both those little... Yeah, those are both just those little, okay, here, it's a boss rush mode.
Yeah. Okay.
The last full trial was Halls of Fabrication, which you've done.
Got it. I don't know them by name, admittedly, except Cloud Rest.
Halls of Fabrication,
lost. They're also similar to me, or mean nothing, I should say.
Yeah, Halls of Fabrication is the one where it's the one on Vardenfell. You start out in one of the Telvanni towers, and you're going through it, and then you get into Clockwork City with the Dwarven ruins all over the place.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah, you did that. I know, you were there.
Don't even remember it. So, maybe that's... No, don't know. But I'm sure I've done it. I've done them all. So I must have done it. I just don't know which one it is. So people are very excited, I'm guessing, about this being a full trial because people like their trash mobs.
Yep.
And from what we know about this is a trial that there is now. We ported around it because again we were in dev mode for this sort of thing, so we got to really use codes to get around and not. It was an essence of time sort of thing. So we you go into it, and there's a left wing, to my recollection, and a right wing. And those different wings, there is a fire dragon, I believe, to the left, and an ice dragon to the right. So you clear trash till you get to them. And I believe there's like bannermen and stuff like that along the way. So actually some mini boss style stuff, like not a full boss, but, you know, serious dudes. They're not just mobs.
That's actually pretty normal for trials in general, for full trials in general. You'll have a lot of enemies that are, you'll have a lot of trash that's normal enemies that have been beefed up a little bit, and then you'll have ones you actually need to pay attention to and deal with. Not singular mini bosses. That was something that was in Maw of Lurkage, but just in general, like you have to keep track of this enemy or that enemy type. That's pretty normal.
Yeah, that's what this felt like. So you got your fire dragon. He wiped us a lot. He was very strong. I would say he was probably tuned correctly, although this was normal. So running with a lot of really, really great people, like people that really know their stuff. Zyno, Dots, Wooler, the rest. A group that's pretty darn, you know, knowledgeable. We got our butts handed to us a good chunk. And I'd be pretty okay if that is the normal tuning, personally. The Ice Dragon wasn't tuned fully, I don't believe. He was nothing compared to his Fire brother in there. Fire brethren, is that what I said? I don't know. The point is,
well, it's
brother, his brother. So the ice one was not nearly as fun at the time because he definitely wasn't tuned. Now that I'm thinking back to it, he had mechanics that didn't hurt and stuff like that. So he was in definitely the phase of being created, but it was a very cool looking fight. The whole trial is gorgeous, but it seems that when you clear left wing and right wing, you can progress on to the next one. So the nice thing about that is that means you can have weeks where you actually just work as a group to clear, you know, one boss, then work on clearing the other boss, and then you clear the both and then go on to the next boss. I think that's kind of neat. And also a shout out that they all have hard modes when you're on veteran. So that's going to be different.
From what I remember of the stream, the mechanic is, in order to actually run the final boss on hard mode, you have to do both of the others on hard mode.
Oh, is that true too?
Yeah. So in order to unlock hard mode for the final boss, you have to defeat each of the two. Yeah. You've got to do them on hard as well.
Oh.
And I think the mechanic, again, I'm pulling off the Bethesda Game Days event stream. The mechanic is hard mode for each of the bosses is that the main boss, the one you've got to clear them both for, will come down and assist in the fight. So a little bit like Fang Lair, actually, where it's like you've got a normal version of the fight, another boss fight, and that's, you know, like another boss to the fight, and that's hard mode.
Got it. Interesting.
Maybe if I'm wrong on that perception, but
well,
that's basically what we're looking at. Sorry?
No, I was just going to say, so we're going to get what's the word? Incentivized here to do some different content. Because I see we also have in the notes. Now, I don't know about this. You must have picked up on this one that there's a skin for the vet clear. Is that right?
Yeah. So that's going to be that Fire Frost skin.
Oh, maybe I did hear that. Okay. Because the one that I care, I don't want to say more, but I care about, because again, we've talked about this to death, but I love achievements. I love carrots for players of all levels, that there will be a mount for clearing all of the achievements in the trial on vet hard mode. So, meaning you're going to need to complete vet hard mode to do it. So again, for anyone that's like, oh no, I'm not going to get it, that is likely, and that's okay. I may never get it. Like, right? Like, it's going to be a goal, but some of that stuff is going to be agonizing. And that can be very well worth it if you think it is. If you think it's worth doing those achievements to do it and you get it, you have something ultra rare that you're going to see very few players with. And that's good. We want that. We need some of that. Every game needs that. We need carrots for everyone so that people can kind of show things off. Because if you see someone riding this awesome mount, it might inspire you to get into trials, and you may have never done trials before. So it's all kind of cyclical like that.
Yeah. And the skin is basically the same texture setup for that mount for yourself.
Ooh. See, I like that stuff where they give you like, okay, here's part 1 of the look, and they're going to work for part 2. And should be a shout out that our trials group in our guild has been absolutely crushing it lately, and we're going to start a normal trials group too. And we've had a ton of listeners come over from the podcast lately that have actually applied to the guild. So if you're interested in hanging out with your fellow podcast listeners, and you even want to start doing trials together if you haven't already, or if you want to start, teaching others trials, we definitely have the space for that. We're probably going to open up a new normal trials group here soon. So if you're on PC North America, there's a guild link for you in the bio below. It's just And this all changed recently. It's kyleodemsterstudios.com/guild and apply. And then we could talk about trial stuff, because this is, I like this. I knew about this mount, and without being able to talk about it, that I still like, I was like, we need to get a trials group ready. Like, this needs to happen.
That happens.
Yeah.
Like that happens where it's like, you know something and you can't say.
Right.
It's the awkward thing with these NDAs where it's like, you know something, but you can't say anything. And then it's like, okay, well, I'm just here doing what I'm doing.
And I guess I didn't even do it in that. Like, it kind of is that. Like, now in retrospect, I can take advantage for it. But you know what really got me? And this is stupid, but this is all about everyone finding their carrot, is that my thing was, when I play on the dev server, I was able to just use the perfected Olorime gear. And I don't have that because you have to do hard mode, or I'm sorry, vet cloud rest. And so I was like, I really want to go get that just for the shits and giggles of it. Like, I just want nicer gear, even though it's only moderately. But the point is, I want it. And so we started that. But that's kind of the cool thing. That's what this community's here for, is to help one another. So it ties back into the dragons. You know, that stuff teaches general world mechanics so people can start learning it. And then hopefully makes people feel a little bit more better, or a little bit better about their confidence level.
Yeah, it also ties back into something we've talked about with difficulty before, where it's like, you just need these kinds of carrots. It doesn't have to be, oh, hey, we're going to stick the big thing out on the end. Because we're talking about, actually, I don't know if it was on the podcast or it was with Ranger when we were on stream with you. We're talking about trying to find different ways to get people to run vet hard mode clears. If the hard mode is not going to be, like, hard mode, no death speedrun isn't going to be necessary for the skin, for the dungeon. And yeah, like the gear set, especially encouraging to come back, is certainly an incentive.
Yeah, I think that's what it's all about, you guys, is finding your things. So getting towards the end of this episode in our recap of Elsweyr, the PTS is set to launch on April 15th. We have no information, but you're actually listening to this on the 14th, so derp tomorrow, I guess, when you're listening to this. At this time, it's currently April 7th. We don't know anything about the PTS. We have no idea who's invited. We have no idea if it can be streamed. We have no idea anything about it, right, Stark? Have you heard a thing?
We don't know. Okay, so in years past, the PTS for the chapters has been NDA'd and then also invite only. And we don't know if that's going to be true this year or not, because like there have been a number of changes, just even in the way that the various groups that went to Bethesda, or sorry, to Bethesda's DCOS to check out the new content. Because at this moment last year, there was a very limited number of things I could talk about with Somerset that were coming. And so you've got a lot more freedom now. For one thing, like we could not have had this conversation about Sunspire.
Got it.
About Cloudburst, it could not have happened. And we couldn't have had to avoid everything about story content, which that's still here. Like if you played it at PAX, please don't talk about the story or spoil the story for people who haven't had the chance to yet. Like that's a request, but it's not actually a hard NDA as far as I know.
Is it funny that they never told me that, or is that just because they know I don't even go near story votes? They're just like, no, he doesn't need to know. He doesn't care. He will never take the quest.
To be honest,
he's already dying on a rock.
That's how it goes, isn't it? Yeah,
they're like, Rich is like, he'll just dance in town. It's fine. Don't worry about that guy.
And some of this was like, there was some serious blowback on things like jewelry crafting and the Warden in those years where people were looking at it and were freaking out about it. And because information was compartmentalized, the people like myself who could say something about the subject to try to diffuse the situation really couldn't. Jewelry crafting is a little bit of a bad example because I think it was influencers, but the group that went last year, we had a little bit more leeway.
Uh-oh, we lost Star. Oh, okay, you're here. Good.
No, I'm here again? Okay,
yeah, you got cut out for a second. I got worried.
No, it's been worrying me too, because it's like the whole thing is sort of holding itself together at the moment. But this year's been different, and with the 5th anniversary going in, it might actually just be it's going to be open on the PTS for everybody, or it might be restricted. If it is restricted, you're still going to be able to mess around with the base game changes. So those are going to be open to everybody, but you might not be able to play the Elsweyr content if it's actually sealed again, like it has been in previous years. Also, and this is actually a little bit of a nitpick here, correction. You've been saying it's coming up on the 15th. We don't know for sure. We know it's the week of the 15th.
Oh, that's a good point. I thought it was hard set to the 15th is what I had heard.
Gina's been saying like the week of the 15th.
Oh, okay.
So could be the 15th, could be the 16th, could be as late as the 19th, but sometime in the week that you're listening to this, it's going to be up. At that point, we'll probably know what we can talk about and what we can't. But right now, it's like we might have a thing coming where we can just go in there and dig through everything and talk about the stuff that's coming in on the PTS, or we might have to be very careful about it. And we won't know until we actually get notification on stuff like, oh, hey, you've been selected, or if there's no notifications going out at all about getting on the PTS, then it's going to be open for everybody, I guess. So we'll see.
I also wanted to call out, I'm sorry I didn't share this with you until this point in the show, Stark, but we did get an email from last week from a user here, a Steve, that wrote in, and he had asked us some more in-depth questions about the Necromancer. And reading over your email, Steve, I feel like these are going to be things you're going to enjoy on the PTS. The gist of it was hoping to hear more depth about how the Necromancer class, played from all three aspects, tank, healer, DPS. He said he enjoyed us talking about the skills, just wondering how they felt. For example, was the tank cumbersome? Was it that sort of thing? And unfortunately, Steve, since on this show I only got to play the healer Necromancer, we really can't go into depth about how that feels. This is one of those things we encourage you to go to the PTS if you're able to. Who knows how that invite system works, but if you can get on the PTS, if you can play the class, give ZeniMax your feedback. One of my things, and I talked about this before, so I'm kind of beating a dead horse that I will soon be able to resurrect, but I'm going to beat it anyway and say that I didn't love how all of the corpse skills worked. I found the tethers and having to target those individually to be a little bit annoying, but I'm hoping that gets changed into a different AoE style approach like many of the others use. You asked, is it viable for vet hard mode dungeons and trials? Everything is viable for those. You just need to know how to play it correctly, meaning you can definitely rock anything anywhere in ESO. So by all means, you're definitely be able to do this. This class is going to be overpowered, and they're going to tune it down from there, I believe, is the approach that's going to be taken with this one.
Yeah, probably.
At least that's what I would always do. As a guy that has, dabbled in the marketing world, I would never want to undersell a product. And I hear that was a very negative approach to the Warden.
There was an element of that. No, there was an element of that with the Warden. Even now, you'll still see a conversation about the Warden not really being there for mag DPS, definitely, because it's a very difficult rotation. Ironically, Bert is the one who spends a lot of time on that. He just warns people straight off of, no, don't start with the mag Warden. And I've never been able to get one to work. I've done Stam Warden DPS, and I just never managed to get that work. One thing I have seen with the Necromancer, and this is going to be kind of like, is it viable for vet hard mode? From the outside looking at it, this is a class that's going to have a very, very high skill ceiling.
Meaning, like, it's going to be tougher for people to play? Is that what you're saying? Well,
meaning as you get better as a player, it's going to be a lot more effective as you go.
Yes.
So if you're good enough, absolutely. But it looks like it's going to have a pretty hard break on, you're going to be able to do basic content with it pretty painlessly, but then you're really going to have to step up your game if you want to be an excellent Necromancer. So, and that's my external perception. I'm not sure how true that is.
I would agree with that on the surface level. First of all, because Rich said that at the Twitch HQ interview about Elsweyr, the first announcement. He said this is definitely going to be a class for more advanced players for the most part. Like he said, this is not going to be an easy class to play. And I'm paraphrasing a bit there. So, and I feel like that came true. I mean, again, you're managing corpses, which is something wholly unique to the Necromancer. And I think you're right. When we played it, and keep in mind, we played an unbalanced version, not the final balance. And you'll play a not final balance either on PTS. But he felt very, very powerful in a good way. It felt like I was logging into a great class and very distinct in all of its skills. It's very much a Necromancer. It's not phoning it in. It's not, just a reskin of anything else, which is, Steven kind of called out, oh, I wish it had pets. And I agree. I would have loved pets. But I also know that a lot of the community does not like pets, and they don't. I think a lot of the community says that pet builds get boring and such like that, and people don't like them in PvP. So there's a litany of reasons there. We could go on for hours, but to keep it succinct, it is a bummer that it doesn't have a perma-pet. I wouldn't mind one like a bear, like the equivalent of the bear, but it's what we have, and I love it to death.
Well, there is also the perpetual issue with pet builds in the game right now, where it's like you're going to turn in your Ritz and somebody's bear ass is in your way, and it's like, oh wait, that's my bear, damn it.
Great point.
But yeah, so like the pets actually do get annoying in some senses. So
yeah, I mean, I want one just because to me that's what a necromancer is. But the fact that these guys last 16 seconds is plenty long when you're actually in combat with them. Especially since they said, you know, the necromancy art is not perfected, so they die, and they're so easy to summon back. It's like casting any other spell. Honestly, they're kind of akin. Not to undersell them, because I don't love the Netch, but they are akin to the Netch in a way from the Warden, that they are easy to summon. It will be very much a part of your standard rotation to have them up. But they're more exciting than the Netch because they actually do damage and they heal and they attack things. So, like, you know what I mean? It's there. You'll have it up 100% of the time, but it is more interesting. It's definitely visually cooler as an undead lover, dude.
And that is something about, actually, I'm sorry, this is a little bit of a backtrack, but that is something about combat in ESO, because it does go very quickly in comparison to some MMOs. And actually a lot of games in general. Very true. When you're seeing these buffs where it's like, oh, hey, you get this upgrade for 20 seconds, that's a long time. Yeah.
Yeah. So kind of to wrap up Steven's comment here, I wish I had better answers for you, but you know, even if I had played it as a tank and it felt cumbersome, it might not by the time it hits PTS, and it definitely might not by the time it hits live. So I recommend giving feedback if you could get into the PTS server. Again, don't know how that's going to work, but if you can get on there, give good feedback, tell them what feels clunky. Like, that's important to report that sort of information. Anything you want to add, Stark?
I was just going to give you a very gentle ribbing that it's like, maybe it's time for you to start messing with the other two roles.
Well, I will be doing DPS with this, and I will be doing Stam with this. I don't think I care to tank. It feels to me like something I actually have to pay attention to, and since I'm always streaming and I can't pay attention,
that's fair.
I don't think I would like that. But I do plan to do a DPS. I especially plan to do a Stam DPS. I don't know if we talked about this with Zynode publicly last week on the show, but it was our last episode about this that I got excited after the show. I forgot. I never got to play Stam, and I checked with Zynode, and I checked with, who else did we ask about this? Oh, Katie. I asked Classic Katie, and they both said this is not a copy-paste stamina character. It is not going to rely on weapon spells. I think Zai said he only slotted 3 weapon attack abilities onto his bars, which is really good news. That means it's going to feel very much like a necromancer, not a stamina dual wield class like that. Right now, stamina dual wield could be its own class, for lack of a, you know, broad.
You're not completely wrong. It's true,
right? I mean, we talk about this all the time. I feel like we had this conversation to death, but we've been saying like nothing different between a Stam Templar and a Stam blah 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 blah. Yeah, but well, this one is.
This was the funny thing with the Zai conversation. Like, part of the reason why we wanted to get Zai in, because I play so many Stam characters, and it's like the difference between a Stamplar and a Stamblade and a Stam Sork. Like, there are differences. They play differently, but you actually see that mostly in the passives.
Yeah.
And then you slot maybe 4 or 5 abilities, depending on the class. The only one that stands out from that is the Stam DK is very different because of all the DOT focus.
Yeah.
And of course, that's actually Zai's baby, because he mains a Stam DK and is absolutely amazing on them, and I'm trash on them. So it's like, I have no idea what I'm doing here.
Well, I think that's a good kind of summary of Steven's comment there. Is that we gave him a couple extra perspectives. We talked TS about the mechanics. We go back and listen to that episode one more time, because we talk a lot about the mechanics there in terms of how the rezzing works and things like that. So I don't have anything else to add to that right now. By the time you listen to this, you might be getting into the game the next day, or like Stark said, sometime throughout the week of the time you're hearing this. But enjoy it, give succinct feedback, give sensical feedback, proofread your feedback, make sure it's in English and makes sense, assuming you're playing on an English-speaking thing. Just you know, be coherent about what you're saying, and that feedback will be received in some way, shape, or form. And I know that they heard us out when we talked about it, so I'm very excited to see what version is presented to us with what changes, because we saw a different version of the Necromancer than the class rep saw. You know, Gandis talked about that with us on the show, on the stream, and said, you know, hey, you got our changes. You got changes that we got, or that we suggested. And it was like, that's really cool. That means there was direct received feedback. So good job, Zos. We love you guys. Thank you for making such an amazing class. Okay, I'm done. I'm getting off my soapbox. Start. Let's leave everybody to get on their own soapbox now and do whatever they're going to do with the rest of their Sunday. So you guys have a fantastic week. We will be back again the following Sunday. We got a very cool interview coming out sometime. We're recording it this upcoming Wednesday, but I don't know what time we're going to release it. But we have Sir Richard of Lambert, or Rich Lambert, as you know him, on the show to talk about things and stuff. So that'll be very, very exciting. We'll kind of give you spoilers as that gets closer, I'm sure. But we're TBD on when that episode's going to come out. We might release it closer to Elsweyr. We might release it as a lead up to Elsweyr. But either way, have a fantastic week, and I will talk to you guys soon. Enjoy your journeys across Tamriel. If you need any of the links, please feel free to check them out in the description below. I'm over on Twitch at twitch.tv/Kyle Dempster Studios, twitter.com/Kyle Dempster STU, Stark here at twitter.com/
Michael J. Schwartz.
And if you need to send us an email, it's at kyledempsterstudios@gmail.com. So have a good one, everyone. Bye-bye.
Take care.